So I gotta ask Sash, should they even bother showing up for the playoffs for Miami, or is it all sort of said and done at this point?
Ricky's gonna tweet about this, but I'm still unconvinced.
You know when you have to take a standardized test and you don't know the answer?
I've got to be the one to step up and try to put it in the back of the net. I was the penalty kick taker that year.
Not after that.
Fortunately, I sent the
2024, get your win this weekend, end up in that 2-7 game, and enjoy your very brief stay in the playoffs.
Very brief stay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Is MLS. There is no better place to get you all set for the regular season finale, aka Decision Day, than this show right here. What a panel we have for you to talk about the most exciting time of the year. Sasha Kleshton, Kaylin Carr, and Matt Doyle, who never, ever leaves me hanging.
Never leave you hanging.
Before we get into what lies ahead in about 48 hours, Decision Day is about moments, about memories. So before new ones are made, I want to know from you guys, what is your best Decision Day moment? Kaylin Carr.
I'm going to take you back a little bit, and it was to David Beckham's first year in MLS, and the excitement around it, but on Decision Day, it came down to Chicago. He had to spot shadow me here. I think because I was moving so fast, but also this was also pre-Apple picture quality days. And John Thorrington gets the winner, puts us in the playoffs. We'd go all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, lose to Taylor Twellman and the New England Revolution on a bicycle kick. But for this day, John Thorrington scores the winner against the Galaxy, knocks David Beckham out of the playoffs, and now working for LAFC. So I think beginning to enjoy some suffering from the Galaxy.
Did you have to fight off the paparazzi after that game, given that you made the defensive play and then you created the goal?
The best part for this, John said in the press afterwards, he's like, I think there was a deflection on the pass or something. And I was like,
no, it was my assist.
I give you a perfect ball in behind. So he owes me one for that.
What's your message to David Beckham now? I'm sure he's watching.
I think he beat me in 2 MLS Cups, so I think he got the last laugh.
You will always have Decision Day. Sasha.
I got to take you guys back to that same stadium, Bridgeview, Decision Day 2015 with the New York Red Bulls. Okay, let me set the scene. We go into this game knowing if we get 3 points, we get the supporter shield. But the Red Bulls have not won in Chicago in 10 years. So what do? Give it to the guy who's the best striker in the league, wide open at the back post. Bradley Wright Phillips puts us up 1-0. Mike Grella draws the penalty. I've got to be the one to step up and try to put it in the back of the net. I was the penalty kick taker that year.
Not after that one.
Fortunately, I sent the keeper the wrong way. A goal is a goal is a goal. Anyway, we lift the trophy. One of my favorite memories as a New York Red Bull, getting to celebrate with our fans, all the fans that traveled and made it such a great group of guys. Love that moment. 2
supporter shield inside of 3 years for that New York Red Bull side. All right, Matt Doyle, your 14th Decision Day.
Yeah,
you have quite the pickings.
I do, but believe it or not, it's going to be another Chicago Fire highlight. Somehow the Fire got into all 3 of our Decision Day memories. But this was Thierry Henry's greatest moment as an MLS player, because this was 2 years before Sasha and that group won it. The Red Bulls had never won anything. They were the last original team without a trophy, and they came into this game needing 3 points to win their first supporter shield, to win their first trophy, and they went down 1-0 inside of 15 minutes, and you could feel it in the stadium that everybody felt the doom building around it. And then Thierry Henry stepping up as one of the greatest players of all time, and certainly one of the greatest players that we've ever had in MLS, put the team on his back. That was his best game in MLS, and it came in one of the biggest moments he ever played in MLS. And the Curse of Curricula, Google it, was dead on that day. I'll always remember that one.
And I'll always remember my first Decision Day. If it wasn't for a Decision Day, ooh.
Jill, baby Jill.
Baby Jill.
Baby Jill. 10 years ago, I got a call saying, hey, I had been pounding on the door of Major League Soccer saying, I want to work here, I want to work here. About 4 days before Decision Day, they said, hey, you want to go to Portland? Word was, I think they could land themselves at the time anywhere from a 2 to a 7 seed, which at the time was out of playoff contention. And then we all know what happened in 2015. The Timbers went on to win MLS Cup.
Wow.
You attach yourself to a team that wins a championship.
You should get a ring for that.
I did not.
You
I did not.
Still waiting on that.
Merritt Paulson. Remember who was there. Remember who was there. So thank you, Decision Day. Thank you very, very much. So if that doesn't get you amped, I don't know what will. This Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the Eastern Conference kicks off simultaneously. MLS Countdown will kick off with a 90-minute pregame show at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and that'll take you right into MLS 360. And I don't know if there was a show that was built better for Decision Day than the crew will have you covered that entire night. Then a bridge show, and then you've got the Western Conference kicking off 9 p.m. Eastern Time. MLS wrap-up at 11:45 Eastern. In the Eastern Conference, 2 spots, 4 teams fighting for that 8 and 9 position. Inter Miami, they did win the Supporters Shield, and they can still get one more title on the line. A win on Saturday would be 74 points, breaking the points record that their opponent this Saturday set in 2021, the New England Revolution. Inter Miami. I believe, Doyle, a few weeks ago, you said that you thought they weren't going to get the points record. So I'm going to come back to you on that in a moment. But Sasha, on a scale of 0 to 100, playing New England at Miami, what are the odds that Inter Miami makes history on Saturday?
Wow, I love the way you've asked this one, Jillian. I'm going to say 99.
Oh!
and I'm only leaving off 1% because there's always the off chance that New England scores an early goal and then defends their butts off and somehow ekes out a victory or a point. But let's be honest, Miami has done all the work all season to get where they are right now. They've scored so many goals, especially when they play at home. Messi, Suarez. And if for some reason, some crazy reason, Miami hasn't done it in the first 80, 85 minutes, they've got Leo Campana to come off the bench, who has saved their butts a few times this year with some stoppage time goals to take the 3 points. I'm very excited to watch this game. I think Decision Day is going to be awesome, but I think Miami wins easily.
Let's actually go a step further and look at MLS Cup. Would you call Inter Miami's season a failure if they don't win MLS Cup?
Interesting, because we went through all the Supporters Shield titles from the Red Bulls mostly already in the show, and I saw Sasha on the wrap-up talking about how important Supporters Shield was, the best trophy. So I got to ask Sash, should they even bother showing up for the playoffs for Miami, or is it all sort of said and done at this point for them?
This is a successful season already for Miami. They've won a trophy, the most I don't know if I can say important, but in my opinion, the best trophy, because you've won so many games over the course of the season. You've entertained your fans. You've entertained people all over the world. You've given us highlights to watch every single week. That is a success to me. The Inter Miami have had a successful season regardless of whether they win MLS Cup.
I have to disagree with that, just because I think the bar for me is still MLS Cup, and Supporter Shield has grown in importance, and I respect what you're saying as far as it being maybe even more difficult in some ways as far as being the consistently best team throughout the regular season. But ultimately, I go back and say the teams that we remember for me are the MLS Cup winners. And even when you look at the past, with David Beckham is the only closest, I guess, comparison you could have to Lionel Messi and this super team that we have with Miami. They won Supporter Shield in 2010 and 2011, but if they didn't win MLS Cup in 2011 and 2012, how would we remember the time of David Beckham, and would you consider it the success that we uniformly agree that it was? Mm-hmm. And so the on-field impact, off-field impact, of course, is there, but I think this team still has to get it done in lifting MLS Cup for them to be remembered. And even on the other side, say they don't win MLS Cup and Columbus win back-to-back. Like, that's the way I'm going to remember this Messi era as far as these first 2 years at least go, of Columbus being the team that set the standard. So I think there's still a ton to play for Miami, and the pressure's still squarely on them.
Doyle, you don't get a star for winning Supporter Shield above your crest.
No, but you do get the best trophy. Sasha's absolutely correct about that. Nobody wins the Supporter Shield by getting lucky. The 2015 Timbers, which you saw firsthand, won MLS Cup by getting hot, getting lucky at the right time of year. You get a star for it, that's great. Nobody should remember the 2015 Timbers as the best team in the league that year. That's fine. When Messi is on your team, the expectation is you win as many things as possible. So just winning the Supporter Shield alone is not enough. That would not be considered a successful season for Inter Miami. Winning Supporter Shield and MLS Cup together, I would argue that's not enough. I think they actually need to go out and set the single season points record and then win MLS Cup on top of it. But the bottom line is if they don't walk away with at least 2 trophies this year, it is not going to be remembered as a successful season. Just like his couple of years with PSG in France were not remembered as successful seasons because they didn't get over the hump in continental play. Yeah, they won the league. Who cares? He was brought in to do more than that, and I think that's the same case here. The other point that I wanted to make, if they don't win, it's going to be Columbus or LAFC. And if Columbus or LAFC win, if it's Columbus win, they'll have Leagues Cup, MLS Cup. If LAFC win, they'll have US Open Cup, MLS Cup. 2 trophies. Miami would only have 1. The team that has 2 trophies will be the team that is remembered from this season. Inter Miami should feel that pressure this weekend. They should feel that pressure all playoffs long.
If Miami wins MLS Cup, that would make it 47 trophies for Lionel Messi. Let's talk about the wild card in the Eastern Conference. DC and Montreal control their own destiny. It is very simple on Saturday. Win and you're in. 2 spots, 4 teams. Sasha, between DC United and Montreal, which is more of a lock?
Of the 2, I think DC is more of a lock. I do think that both of them are going to get in. Remember, Jill, they only need a point to get in, right? They don't even need to win. They're playing at home. So DC with Benteke, I think he is the catalyst for everything that they do. He's been their best player, their most important player. I think he understands what's at stake in this game and will do everything more than just score goals, defending on set pieces. He's going to will his team into the playoffs. Montreal is the team I worry about a little bit because when you play at home, knowing you just need a point to get into the playoffs, pressure is there and it will start to mount over the course of that game against New York City on Saturday. So I'm fearful for Montreal, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because the young players have stepped up lately and they're playing at home.
If DC or Montreal lose, things then get interesting. The Philadelphia Union and Atlanta United have a chance. Kaylin, I need you to make the chance for Jim Curtin's Philadelphia Union.
Well, I don't think it's a difficult one, really. I actually think
they have to win first.
I think they're going to think it. Number 1, they have to win. And that's no easy task going to Cincinnati. But they did that in Leagues Cup in the round of 16, beat them 4-2. And there's a lot of history between these 2 teams. They understand each other, of course, with Noonan coming from Philadelphia and Jim and them knowing each other. I think they can mirror them as far as whether they want to go back 3 or if they want to stay with the diamond and the 4-4-2 as well. But I think they can win this game. The other thing is Cincinnati have lost their last 3. And then after that, you have to then go towards the results. And Sasha mentioned Montreal. They're playing against New York City, who are absolutely flying right now. Alonso Martinez, 16 goals on the season. This team has scored, I think, 11 goals in their last 3. So they've been completely buzzing. And then you look at the results that Montreal have had as of late. Their wins and the good results have come against New England, Chicago, San Jose, Atlanta, and then lost to Charlotte. So the strength of competition, and they've been in good form. They deserve a lot of credit for even being in this position in the playoffs right now. But I could see them potentially slipping up at the line. Once again, they missed decision day at home on an iPad. They're watching, and they saw things go against them to miss out on the final day. I could see that happening once again with the Union jumping over the line in dramatic fashion.
If either Montreal or DC United lose and Philadelphia win, that will be enough because all three teams will be on 10 wins, which is the first tiebreaker. Philly owned the second tiebreaker, which is goal differential. They'll be they're at, +8 right now. DC is -15. Montreal is -18. So Philly, they get it done, and they get a little bit of help. They will absolutely get in. And it should be worth mentioning, you said since he lost their last 3. Since he have 2 wins in 3 months. 2 wins in 3 months. This is a team that has a really good history, short history under Pat Noonan, but they've been a good team. They have not been a good team lately. It feels doable for me for Philadelphia.
It's a long shot for Atlanta United. They need some chips.
It does not feel doable for me.
They need some
for
chips
Atlanta
to fall their way. But Doyle, first and foremost, they not only have to get a win, they have to get a win against their rival Orlando City in Orlando.
Yeah, and Orlando's been the best team in the Eastern Conference for the past couple of months, just in terms of points per game. They have this attack that is absolutely flying since Martin Ojeda was moved to the number 10. Facu Torres looking like the best version of himself, getting contributions from every forward on the depth chart, and they have 3 forwards on that depth chart. It's all clicking, and it is not all clicking for Atlanta United. They would need Philadelphia to drop points. They would need either DC or Montreal to lose, and they would need to pull off this win in Orlando. It doesn't feel like, even in MLS, it's like such a confluence of events, it doesn't feel particularly plausible. I'll put it at more than the 1% that Sasha gave the Revs to win, but not much more than that 1%.
A tall task for Atlanta United, as Orlando City has 6 wins in their last 7. Yes? Are you raising your hand?
I want to see Dax play in Orlando, potentially where he grew up, and now coming back maybe in his last game if they don't make the playoffs. So I would love to see them roll the dice and give Dax.
I feel we already got so many Dax highlights at the start with those supporter shields. Now he's...
Give us one more, Dax.
Let's see it.
One more, Dax. Let's head out west, where the playoff picture is not completely set, but the seeding is what's up for grabs. This is the big one, including the Western Conference champion. Will it be the LA Galaxy, who's had the top spot for months, or will it be LAFC, who has begun to creep in the last couple of weeks, including coming off of a big win over Vancouver over the weekend? The LA Galaxy get a point, and it's a done deal. But there is a chance for LAFC. One, they have to win. The LA Galaxy would have to lose. Then the two would be tied at 19 wins, and LAFC makes up the current goal differential of 2. Sasha, on a scale of 1 to 100, what is the percent that the LA Galaxy are the Western Conference winners on Saturday?
I'm going to put it at 60%. I'm giving it to the LA Galaxy because of the way they played at Colorado a few weeks ago. That made me believe a little bit more. They went on the road, the way they played in the second half on the counterattack, very efficient. Ricky Pooch heavily involved, as he always is. Gabriel Peck in transition, one of the best transition players in Major League Soccer. Galaxy has to enter this game knowing and thinking that LAFC is going to win 5 or 6-0 against San Jose. So they know they have to go into this game with a winning mentality. At worst, they get a draw. They have history with Houston on decision day. And now listen, I think Houston, if Hector Herrera is back, they will control the game with possession. But I actually think that might be good for the Galaxy, that they can play in transition like they did at Colorado. I see them getting the job done. And it's so important because I really expect these two teams, LA Galaxy and LAFC, to meet in the Western Conference Final. And LA Galaxy will desperately want that game to be played at Dignity Health Sports Park, where they haven't lost this season.
Yeah, Sasha, I think LA finished top of the table, but Houston have circled this one. I did their match against St. Louis last match, and they had some tough decisions to make. They rested Mikael. He was on yellow cards on 4. They didn't want to risk him because they needed him for this next one. Coco Carrasquillo only played 15 minutes last night for Panama against Canada away, so I think he's going to come in a little bit fresh. And then, as you mentioned, Hector Herrera, they're hoping to have him back. And I don't think it makes so much of a difference for Houston from the standpoint of maybe exactly where they finish in the table as far as, 4 or 5. I think they're probably going to play Seattle or Real Salt Lake, but I think more than anything, they want to measure themselves against the Galaxy going into the playoffs to finish the season off home in a strong way with some momentum heading towards the playoffs.
Doyle, the LAFC is coming off of 4 straight wins in league play. They're finding their form at the right time.
They are. They lost their legs a little bit after the Leagues Cup, and they struggled, but they ended up rebounding to win the U.S. Open Cup, and since then, they've looked more like the version of themselves that they were for the first 4 or 5 months of the season. It's Denis Bouanga, it's Olivier Giroud being more involved, it is Mateus Bogusz as well. They're playing San Jose at home, and San Jose have already done the 1-2-3 Cancun thing. Like, they are done with this season. So this is 3 points for LAFC, and hopefully they get Giroud, a couple of goals, get him cooking heading into the playoffs. I'm sure that is on their list of things to do. But it does come back to what are the Galaxy going to do against Houston? And as you said, Sasha, the Galaxy have a not great decision day history against the Houston Dynamo. I think the teams have met 5 times on decision day, and Houston's won 4 of them, including back in 2018. We could have used this for the opening segment. It was Zlatan's first year. They went to Houston on decision day, I think they hosted Houston actually on decision day, just needing a point, and they figured out a way to lose to the Houston Dynamo, who weren't a great team that year. So they have had some, I know it's largely a different group, but there are some demons that they need to exercise in this game. And I'm sorry, I'm still, Ricky's going to tweet about this, but I'm still unconvinced that the Galaxy are actually that much better than the rest of this group. Flip a coin between them and LAFC, I think it lands LAFC almost every time.
The other part of the Western Conference standings that people are going to be keeping their eyes on is the wild card matchup, the 8-9. Now, one thing we do know is that the Portland Timbers will be in the wild card matchup, but who they will be playing is the question. Is it the Vancouver Whitecaps or is it Minnesota? The 3 games that you need to keep your eyes on here are Vancouver on the road at Real Salt Lake, Portland in Seattle, and Minnesota at an eliminated St. Louis City. Sasha, end of Saturday night, what is the Western Conference wildcard matchup?
I think the standings stay the same, Jill. I think Vancouver stays in 8th. I think they go to Salt Lake and they lose. They've been in really bad form since they won the Canadian Cup. They're really backsliding into the playoffs here, and I'm not confident in that group going to Salt Lake and getting a good result. And then Portland, they have to go into Seattle and win. A tie is not enough to move them up into the 8th spot, and I don't see them doing that either. Seattle is one of the hottest teams in the league since the summertime, and I think Seattle takes care of business at home. We get the 8-9 matchup where Portland is going to travel to Vancouver midweek in that wild card matchup.
Okay, so Vancouver hosting Portland. Doyle, Minnesota United, one of the most informed teams at this point in the season. I feel like we've said this before. 6 wins in their last 9, so we know that they're good, but are they playoff dangerous?
I mean, they're playoff dangerous. They're not a contender in the Western Conference.
But is that playoff dangerous?
I wouldn't expect them to beat. Right now, it would be them versus LAFC or the Galaxy in the first round, depending on how, that previous segment we just did, depending on how that shakes out. And this man right here, Kelvin Yeboah, he could score some goals. He could make it happen. And in a one-off, you would like their chances to, have a puncher's chance at an upset. But over the course of 3 games, they would be prohibitive underdogs. That said, they finally have, I think, an identity in how they want to play and how they want to build. And between Yeboah and Joaquin Pereira, the other DP that they added this summer, and with guys like Bongi Longwane and Robin Lod playing as well as they have been, you can at least spin it forward into 2025 and say, okay, this is a team that's going to be interesting. This is a team that next year, once they add a couple of more pieces in central midfield, can actually be playoff dangerous come decision day 2025. But 2024, get your win this weekend, end up in that 2-7 game, and enjoy your very brief stay in the playoffs.
Very brief stay in the playoffs. All right, we'll see how it all shakes out. Remember, the Western Conference kicks off 9 p.m. Eastern Time on MLS Season Pass. It's awards time. So we need to talk about the big question. Who is the MLS MVP come the season's end? Remember, it is the player who was the most valuable to their team over the course of the regular season. So voting closes on Monday. So for the 3 of you, this is your final chance to sway all those opinions out there for those who get the big vote. Sasha, who's your MLS MVP?
Well, Jill, I haven't voted yet because I'm going to vote once the regular season ends, and decision day could sway my vote in somehow. But today, I would vote for Lucho Acosta. It came down to Lucho and Cucho Hernandez for me. Those were the 2 players that I had to decide between, and I chose Lucho for a couple of reasons. He was available for all of his team's games this year. He stepped up big, and with what FC Cincinnati had to deal with injuries, the fact that they're still 3rd in the East, I think is mind-blowing for me, and it all comes down to what Lucho Acosta did this season. He had a better individual season this year than he did last year when he won MVP. And I guess the other thing that sent him over the edge was that Cucho Hernandez missed about 7 games for Columbus during the regular season. Some of them were due to disciplinary issues, a suspension issued by Wilfred Nancy. And Columbus was just as good without Cucho than they were with Cucho. So that's why I settled on Lucho right now. That's my guy. I think he's had a fantastic season and deserves another MVP shout.
If Lucho can do it, he'll be the first ever back-to-back MVP winner.
That'd be impressive.
Who you got, Kalen?
I'm not going in that direction. You know when you have to take a standardized test and you don't know the answer?
Is that you right now?
Well, you just kind of like cross out the ones you know are not on the list. And so for me, that's what I kind of did. I went down and I said, okay, I love Evander, I love Benteke, but I can't vote for somebody who's potentially going to be in a wild card match or a play-in match to get into the playoff. That's no disrespect to them. Then you start to move up the table and you say Lionel Messi, of course, he's been insane. I would have thought no way, but then he comes back. That performance against Columbus, they win the Supporters' Shield. You mentioned we don't even know what he's going to do to a limping New England side on decision day, Sash. So, and then it really came down again to exactly the two left that Sasha identified for me, which were Lucho and Cucho. And I almost feel, I was surprised to hear you say that Lucho's stats are actually better this year, because to me, it almost feels like last year was so insane what he was able to do that it felt like this year maybe hasn't quite lived up to it. But I think that's mainly because maybe down the stretch, it hasn't been as strong for him. He was carrying some foot injuries through Leagues Cup that they had to manage, and now is just kind of rounding back into form. But for me, Cucho is the pick that I ended up picking at the end. Just the ability for me, one, the eye test, like he's the scariest dude in MLS to me to face. He's
Second scariest.
well, Lionel Messi, but I think as far as the ability to play a bunch of different positions, at times he's the finisher, at times he's the provider. He can go into wide areas, he can find the final pass. I know you're only supposed to judge this, Jill, based on your regular season MLS play, but I can't forget what happened in Leagues Cup. I can't forget what happened in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, even though he got benched for a piece of that.
I'm just stating the rules. It's
just, I think that also the impact of him being called up now to the Colombian national team based on his play in MLS is something that is significant to note as well, and well-deserved based on his ability. So for me, he's one of the stories of the season, the guy that I would pick. But it's a tough race, absolutely, but I have to go with Cucho.
I'm with you. I went with Cucho. I already put my ballot in. That's how sure I was that it was going to be Cucho, because I look at it in 3 parts. Like, who is the best player? Well, it's Messi, but he didn't play enough. Well, other than Messi, Cucho's the best player in the league. Then it's value, as in like individual value, how much do you add to your team? And then it's value at the top, as in taking a 55-point team to 65 points is more valuable to me. It's harder to do than taking a 45-point team to 50 points. And Cucho, I know Sasha made a good point that like the crew have been good without him. But like you see the difference when he's on the field. And we've seen a bunch down this stretch. When they've needed him to be the best number 9, he's the best number 9. When they need him to be the best number 10, he's the best number 10. When they need him to be the best winger, he's the best winger. And to be a match winner at that level across multiple competitions, across multiple positions, it is the definition of value to me.
You said, Sasha, that you're waiting, until Monday. Should one game really over a 38 possible match days be able to sway your opinion that much? Like, what would have to happen for you guys to change your mind over a 9-month season?
Matt said he already voted.
I did.
I know.
No,
but I think you regret
it shouldn't, Jill. It shouldn't, Jill. But I am waiting for maybe the best 11. So, for example, I don't have Denny Bouanga in my best 11 right now. But if he smashes San Jose for 4 goals and steals the golden boot from Benteke on decision day, I think Denny Bouanga is going to make my best 11. That's just an example of why I'm not voting till Monday.
And I do regret that I actually put my vote in, because thinking about it, if Christian Benteke has 4 goals against Charlotte and gets DC United into the playoffs, this is an all-time carry job. Like, first of all, his numbers from the season would then be 27 goals and 7 assists, which is, I believe, the same that Wando had a dozen years ago when he won it with like 100% of the vote. So we're talking about an all-time great season just in terms of numbers. But then the other thing that Benteke has done is completely define the way his team plays. They have the plan A, B, and C for just getting the ball into the final third is launch it at Christian Benteke's head. He has contested almost 3 times as many aerials as any other player in the league, and he wins 80% of them. It's insane. And DC, their entire attack revolves around winning second balls off of that, and he has done it every single week. Like, this guy has been not just a goal scorer, but like, he suffers for his team. He takes a beating that no other forward in this league does. If DC United were 10 points better, I think I would have decided on Christian Benteke, but because they're just the fringe playoff team, that docked him too much in my eyes. But again, I kind of regret that I already put my ballot in.
I'm going to give you guys a chance here. Nobody, we've mentioned the name, but not with MVP, wants to make the case for 8-time Ballon d'Or winner Lionel Messi.
But doesn't it feel like there's a lot of opinion and support for Messi?
But we need to talk. But we need to talk about it. So Doyle said something that Messi didn't play enough, and he's correct. He played 25% less soccer than Cucho. He played 45% less soccer than Lucho, but he has almost the same numbers.
Yeah, he's
17 goals, 15 assists. How can we not be talking about this guy in the MVP race?
Hey, didn't you hear Sasha? Sasha said you're unserious if you're talking about him in the MVP race.
He's scaring people away. No,
Listen,
but he has two less. Hold on. He has 2 less goals than Cucho, Sasha, and 2 more assists.
Yep.
So it's his fault that he won Copa America?
He's had a fantastic season. I can't take that away from him, Jillian. But I want to vote for somebody that was there for their team the entire season and showed their value to their club. The thing that I can say against Messi is that he didn't play enough, and when he wasn't there, his team was just as good without him. So that shows that I understand a lot of people are going to vote for Messi, and I get that. And the best argument I can say for Messi, somebody tweeted this at me, and I thought it was awesome. They said, add 8 games played to his statistics, and you would vote for him 100%. You're right, I would. If he had played 26 games and had 17 goals and 15 assists, I would probably vote for him. But he wasn't there for his team over the course of the entire season. That's why I'm not voting for him.
Right. Well, he wasn't with his team because 2 months injured, but 1 month at Copa America where he won a trophy. But I think that it's not just, Sasha, about, that his team was just as good when he wasn't there. It's about moments. What about 2 weeks ago against the Columbus Crew? If it wasn't for Lionel Messi's brace, Inter Miami would not have won the Supporter Shield in that moment, and they wouldn't have taken down the reigning champion. So it also, for me, has to come down a little bit to the eye test of moments of brilliance.
Sure,
and I don't think anyone has the amount of moments of brilliance as Messi.
I agree with you. It has to come down to the eye test, which is why I'm not voting for Christian Benteke, because he doesn't entertain us every single week like Lionel Messi. And that's not really a knock on Benteke. It's just he's not this elegant player who's setting up players in the final third and scoring beautiful goals, but he's so effective. That's why I'm not voting for Benteke. But like I said, I'm not going to vote for a guy who only played half the season and his team still probably would have won the Supporters' Shield without him. And if you're talking about moments, we can't forget that Leo Afonso scored in the 95th minute when Miami had 9 men, or that Leo Campana has scored goals in injury time to get. So it's not like Miami won the Supporters' Shield because of Lionel Messi. He helped them for sure. He's an amazing player, but he's not the MVP.
I agree. I think part of it is you get punished. We see this happening a lot in these types of awards where you see 2 center backs up for Defender of the Year and one of them grabs it, or maybe they share the vote a little bit. And his team has Suarez, it has Busquets, it has Jordi Alba, it has all these players that have just made, Gomez, all these guys that have completely stacked the deck. And so, it's going to help them win maybe everything over and over again. But I think in this case, and agreed with the minutes on that, he's been insane in the moments that he's been there. But it's almost maybe we're a victim of getting used to Messi or expecting that from him in MLS. But I think there's other guys that are more deserving as well.
Well, one place where I think all of these guys, Lucho, Cucho, Christian Benteke, Lionel Messi, will be, is in your best 11s. Matt Doyle, who you got?
Let me see what I got, because I already filed this again. Christian Kalina in goal, that's a no-brainer. I have Steven Moreira at right center back, Jackson Reagan, and Miles Robinson along the back line. Luca Orishano as one wing back, Federico Bernardeschi as the other, Cole Bassett and Ricky Puig in central midfield, and then Messi underneath Cucho and Benteke. And I'm about to talk to a forward and a number 10, and they're gonna yell at me because the best 11 isn't just filled with forwards and number 10s. To me, the formation,
Where's Lucho?
the positions, they should represent the best guys at each position over the course of a year. That's what a best 11 should be.
This is wild. I think Matt Doyle's the only guy in America that's voting a best 11 in an actual formation. I'm voting for a best 11 on guys that I tune in to see every week. And sorry, I got one more bone to pick with you. Haven't you made the case that Sergio Busquets is perhaps the MVP of Inter Miami? And didn't I see that you gave him a vote in your power rankings for MVP on the MLS website recently too? And he's not in your best 11? Come on, I want to see Cucho, Evander, Lucho, Ricky Puig. I got Busquets in my best 11 too, and I think Aaron Long has a shout at center back for LAFC this season.
I just like that Doyle is setting his team up like they're gonna go out and win games. And Sasha's like, let's let the number 10s play. And it is impossible though.
You guys are setting up a team to lose 4-0 to Arsenal. That's what you're doing.
That'd be fun. And it probably, this one actually could be maybe 4-4 if they let Sasha and us.
Oh, so I thought that's entertainment. Isn't that what the best 11 is for, Sasha?
But I will pick a few out there. Bernadeschi for me I don't think can be in the best 11, and that's no disrespect for him. I think he was kind of the lone bright spot in a season that was mostly disappointing for Toronto FC, and I don't even want to really go too deep into that to keep the mood high here, but you don't have Lucho Acosta in the team, and I think we've all gone through to say he's got to be in the best 11. He's potentially up for MVP, so that's one immediately that stands out. And then while I love Cole Bassett, I think he's been bright for Colorado. I have trouble. I understand from the positioning. If you're thinking about a team, he's going to have to do a lot of running for Ricky Puig and Messi in front. So I would just say
he leads the league in ground covered this year. And the Colorado Rapids have gone into the toilet without him down the stretch.
I would still take Evander in that position. Maybe just let him drop deep and spring balls forward and play. So I have to say Bernadeschi and Bassett drop for me. In comes Evander. And then you also got to have Lucho Acosta in a best 11.
The attackers want more attackers in the best 11.
I think that they'd want more service, more guys to just get them the ball, more guys to get them the ball. Well, that does it for the awards. You can keep an eye out on all MLS channels. Those will be unveiled throughout the postseason. But in the near future, this Saturday night, Decision Day, don't forget, it's the day of sheer chaos, so much fun, craziness, goals, and there will no doubt be something that happens that none of us even talked about here today. And at the end of Saturday night, at the end of Decision Day, the MLS playoff picture will be set. For Sasha Klesch and Kaylin Carr, Matt Doyle, myself, Jillian Sakovitz, we'll see you next week.